Welcome to Podcast 83, a regular look at the news, stories, and trends related to Michigan's 83 counties from the Michigan Association of Counties.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Podcast 83, the podcast from the Michigan Association of Counties. I am Deena Bosworth, Director of Governmental Affairs, and today I'm joined by my legislative staff, Sam Gibson and Jimmy Johnson. It's been a while since we've talked to you. We've, been trying to report as best we can in our legislative updates, and hopefully you're getting those, but it's been an atypical year, to say the least. I think, usually midsummer, it's fairly slow. Legislators are back in their district and, they're doing their, constituent contact activities and trying to engage with their community members, and not really typically in Lansing. So we're used to that. But this year's even worse. This year, we don't see any real movement on budgets, on legislation, and it's really kind of dragging on. Now, we've seen, I know Sam has seen, I know Jimmy has seen lots of bills that have been introduced and things that we can kind of sink our teeth into and do, some of our MAC policy work. But for actual movement, we haven't seen much. Mm-hmm. They've been reporting out that, this is the least amount of public acts by this time of year ever. I mean, they said earlier before since 1940. Well, now we're in August. Mm-hmm. We've had 6 bills go and get signed by the governor, and that's it. Usually it's in the 180 to 220 range by now.
Yep.
Yeah, and they're not moving. So what's going on? I mean, why the standstill? Why the issues? Sam, you want to take that first? Jimmy, who wants to take that first? What's the real landscape? Tell them the truth.
I think the elephant in the room is roads.
Mm-hmm.
The governor says, I don't want a budget that doesn't have a road funding deal negotiated as part of it. And in the meantime, the political landscape in Lansing at the federal level is no party is passing the other party's legislation. The 6 bills that have been signed into law this year are, I would say, nonpartisan issues. They were absolutely had to get done with the Earned Sick Time Act and the ice storm response that the governor signed. I mean, other than that, we haven't seen anything really be taken up by the other chamber. So both chambers are passing bills. Primarily the House has done, I think, significantly more than the Senate has this year. But again, what does get sent to the other chamber goes untouched. And as you said, Deena, there are things that we're monitoring and sinking our teeth into and advocating for, but when the other chamber doesn't have any interest in touching it, regardless of what the policy is, it makes things difficult. And, there's always the potential for a lame duck 2026 of, well, everything's on the table now. It's sat for a year, potentially, if things don't change. And everything's up in the air at that point.
That's a scary idea. Mm-hmm. If they're going to make up all of that ground during lame duck next year, I'm terrified. Terrified. There's going to be so much moving at once. So yeah, the big deal is roads. For sure it is, but we don't even have a budget yet. Mm-hmm. We have no budget. And, statutorily, they're required to have their budget done by July 1st, right? Which, no real penalties if they don't get it done. So I'm not super shocked, especially in this political environment. But that's pretty difficult for schools. And it's going to be difficult for local units of government that don't know what their allocations are going to be, right? We've seen lots of numbers come out on that One Big Beautiful Bill Act and what that financial implication is on Michigan's budget. And we're talking revenue shortfall of almost $700 million. And we're talking increased costs. So that brings us about $1.1 billion they have to come up with in order to make things work, right? Senate has passed out their budgets over to the House. Unrealistic, because now One Big Beautiful Bill Act passed after that, and we don't have enough money to fund it. The House hasn't even gone through finish the subcommittee process, right? What are we hearing on that, Jimmy? What are they supposed to be doing right now?
Well, right now, so there hasn't been a lot of action, obviously, with them actually voting bills. Now, recently in this new legislative session, Speaker Hall put in a new rule to where anytime that a legislator is going to be asking for an appropriation for a project in their district, they have to put their name out there, has to be attached to it, and then they have to come and testify before the committees. So in the last 2 weeks, I want to say there was 15 hours of testimony that took place of all these legislators coming in. They have to back up, this is what they're asking for, which is a good thing. And, in years past, we have seen a lot of news articles that come out of money that got allocated through the budget process. They ask the member who had received the money in the district, and that member doesn't even know that that money was allocated. So at least right now, we're having a much more transparent process that we're seeing right now. Again, 15 hours of testimony. With our experience in the legislature, I think we all know that during budget season, typically that hasn't happened in the past. So this is something, very refreshing.
Transparency, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. And
Transparency.
that's, super helpful. And then as for the rest of, the subcommittees, there's a lot of really important things that are out there that, I'm hoping is going to start getting that attention. In particular, Veterans Service Grant Fund. That money is still being held up right now. Julie Rogers has legislation out there to put that money back in to that grant fund. So we're hoping to see some movement on that. Again, even going into the PIHP deals, Medicaid and SNAP, I'm a perpetual optimist. So working in this
You're a
field,
lobbyist, Jimmy.
it's a
You're a
rarity.
lobbyist. How could you be no, I'm kidding.
Right. But the way that I'm looking at it is that, okay, the health budget hasn't been taken care of yet, but let's say that they did get it done and the one big beautiful bill came through. Recalculations would have to be made. So at least I'm looking at it in that vein right now. Like, hey, we got some more time at least to sharpen the axe to cut down the tree. So now we know what Michigan is going to be having to deal with. Now the legislature at least has a little bit more time to come up with that game plan. Hey, how do we backfill these areas? So is there a lot going on? Not really. Is there a lot of conversations taking place? Absolutely. So at least, we have some positive movement there. So again, perpetual optimist view here, but we'll see where that goes.
Okay, so Sam, and initially you said it's all about roads. And we know that what? Matt Hall has said no budget without roads. The governor has said,
The speaker has said that, the governor has said that. It's about a lot of things, right? Jimmy hit on it, you hit on it, big beautiful bill that held up as far as the amount, the allocations that they need for the budget, right? To estimate and make an informed budget, they needed the federal budget to be completed. But the other end of it is this roads plan or lack thereof, right? Speaker Hall and House Republicans have put their their road funding plan out. The Senate has yet to be forthcoming in what their plan may or may not be. The governor has been vocal in her need for a road funding plan and that she's not interested in a budget that doesn't include one. The House road funding plan says we want to take sales tax at the pump, divert it into the Michigan Transportation Fund, use it solely for road repairs. You testified earlier this year, Deena, our support for that with the caveat of we got to backfill the sales tax revenue and our reliance on revenue sharing. Schools feel the same way. Senate Majority Leader Brinks has said, yeah, I'm supportive of this reallocation of sales tax revenue at the pump, but nobody's talking about where we're going to find that extra revenue to supplement sales tax. I think that's what's yet to be determined and this is all hanging on.
I don't think anybody wants to be the first one to come out and say, oh, I like this revenue increase option or that revenue increase option, because they all know they're going to be in trouble back in their district when they do. So now we're at a standstill. Fiscal year starts October 1st. So it is now August 4th at the time of this taping, August 4th. We still have no budget. Don't know what is going to happen in the budget process. And we're going to reallocate a significant amount of money to roads if Speaker Hall and Governor Whitmer get their way. And then where does the rest of the budget come from? I'm so curious to see. But they're not being forthcoming on their details. Now, we did hear that this week, the House subcommittees have got to figure out what their budgets are going to look like. They know the impact of the Big Beautiful Bill Act. They know the impact of reduced revenue. Now they have to come up with what their budgets are going to look like, or what their recommendations are, which are going to be, like I said earlier, significantly different than the Senate passed version. We don't know where they're going to find the money, and we will fight them if they're taking it out of revenue sharing. I'll tell you that. But you know, as of right now, I guess that's kind of where it stands. They did have session last week. Anybody want to touch on that? Was it last week? The week before? They had
Might have
their
been the week before.
the week before.
Limited session
Yeah, I don't
days.
think we've touched on that.
Yeah.
That was pretty
Yes.
difficult. What happened?
Drama fest. I mean, they showed up for session in the House. There was some legislation it was partisan. It was definitely political. House Republicans wanted to get some bills done, and they were not able to have all of their members present, which led to them not having the 56 votes they needed to pass the bills they were looking to do that day. And consequences were faced. It was reported that there was a deal struck between the speaker and a member of the House Democratic Caucus. He's the minority chair, or was rather, of the House Appropriations Committee, Albus Farhat. There may or may not have been a deal struck that was not followed through on, and the speaker removed the representative from his chair appointment, minority chair appointment rather. So I don't know who the House Dem budget negotiator will be from here on out, but the speaker has removed that legislator from that position. So
Yeah, quite the
Attention
turnaround.
brewing.
I mean, the
Mhm.
House Dems didn't have the majority they needed last lame duck, and now the House Republicans are facing the same challenge, or at least they did a couple of weeks ago. You know, some of their own members just decided they weren't going to come to session. So it's going to make for strange dynamics now. Hopefully, you know, they can still get enough people there, get a quorum, negotiate on both sides, get something done so that we don't face a looming government shutdown on August 1st or October 1st. I'm keeping my fingers crossed. I'm keeping my fingers crossed. So what else have we got going on? We got our conference coming up at the end of September, early October. I hope to see everyone there. We've got all our platforms out on our website. So if our members want to take a look at that, please do. A lot of hard work put in by our committees to develop those policy positions, and those policy positions or those platforms is what guides us on knowing what our members want to see happen in Lansing. So hopefully everybody takes a look at those and takes those very seriously. We appreciate all of everybody's input and the feedback we get. You guys got anything else? Looking forward to the rest of summer. Hopefully they'll be in session next week and we can see some movement and get back to the grind, right?
Yeah,
Mhm.
I think we're expecting some session days next week, at least one. We'll see. If members come to Lansing, then there should be session.
All
That's
right, they're
what the
talking
word
about a
is.
budget by the end of August. I want to see all those stars align. Keep our fingers crossed. Right,
Mhm.
exactly. Keeping our fingers crossed. All right, thanks everyone. That's it for now, and we will get back with you next week.
Thank you for listening to today's episode of Podcast 83.